devil is amongst us. Stay back, boy. This calls for divine intervention.
When I use the term brain dead, what's the first image that comes into your mind? What's the first thing you think of? Other than that. There you go. Braindead is a zombie/horror/comedy film from the mind of Lord of the Rings director himself, Peter Jackson. Yep, you heard me. The man responsible for giving us the majestic masterpiece that was the Lord of the Rings trilogy is also responsible for giving us this. Now, how could one man make two such distinctively different films? By being incredibly talented and having all the right people in the best fields around him, as opposed to other directors who work on trilogies who used to surround themselves with all the right people and then slowly got rid of them all and just surrounded himself with people who just agree with everything he says. He's probably stopped listening, so I can carry on now. The first time I ever heard of Braindead, I was over a friend at the family's house. We were looking through the TV listings and seeing Braindead. The synopsis went on to say that the film had the goriest finale ever put to screen. I was interested, and given that this scene happens 41 minutes in, and is quickly followed by this scene, which is barely at the halfway point of the movie, I was left wondering how in the hell they could out-gore these sequences. Yeah, now is probably a good time to warn you that if you're eating or about to eat, stop this video now. If you have a strong stomach, please continue. Just don't blame me if you end up feeling sick. The film is a marvel from a prosthetic standpoint, with some truly incredible uses of makeup, latex, and God knows what else they use to make these designs look as disgusting as possible. The film is gory, silly, and utterly hilarious once you get the angle the film is coming from. Ever wanted to see a priest kick ass for the Lord? You get it here. How about half a head torn up in a blender? Or maybe a dinner scene that makes the Texas Chainsaw Massacre dinner sequence look like Christmas with the Waltons? Yep, that's here too. With this mindset, it's very important to remember that the film is primarily a comedy, and I always felt its characters were written as extreme caricatures of what you would normally see in a horror film. Lionel is the repressed everyman, dominated by his mother, who grows up through the film and by the end looks like Ash from the Evil Dead series, if Ash were not played by Bruce Campbell. Paquita is the love interest who follows the fates of the cards to the letter, and will almost stalk the man she is told she is destined to be with. The vicar is a devout man of God, who also happens to know Kung Fu. The uncle is a perverted pig whom no one would ever find attractive. The mother, a dominating battle axe, etc. They're all played up, and are almost cartoon characters in how extreme they're taken. But it completely fits with Jackson's madcap direction. What I'm trying to say is that the characters are all mad. The film is completely mad. And any attempt you might try to sort of fix some sort of logic to what they do and how they act would only take away the enjoyment you can have while watching the film. It does not take itself seriously at all. And neither should you. The film opens on Skull Island. Yep, the same Skull Island that E.O. King Kong lives on. Anyone who could accuse Peter Jackson of lying when he spoke about how much he loved King Kong and how much it inspired him to become a filmmaker while growing up need only look at this opening and its setting. This sequence should also be familiar to anyone who's ever watched The Lord of the Rings, as it's the same location for the Pass of the Dead sequence. And had Jackson been able to make King Kong when he originally intended, this setting would have been used for the Brontosaurus chase scene in the remake. It's here we meet Stuart, played by Bill Ranstung, along with his guide, as they attempt to smuggle the Sumatra rat monkey off the island. The natives are not fans of this, obviously, so Stuart first tries to threaten them with a paper, which doesn't work, so he just pulls a gun, which scatters them, allowing him to hoist the monkey's cage onto his shoulder and run. Managing to reach his truck, the team set off, leaving the guide with the natives giving chase. But his guide somehow manages to catch up to the truck. During all the running, holding and driving, however, the cage ends up falling onto Stuart and the monkey bites him. This is clearly a bad thing, as the guide kicks Stuart from the van and then cuts off his arm. But then they notice another bite. So they cut off his other arm. And finally they notice a bite on his head. So they... Yeah, I'm sure you get the idea. Now you're probably sitting there thinking, my God, that was a gory opening. You haven't seen anything yet.
Hi, Paquita.
Good morning, Roger.
We move on to Wellington, New Zealand. I've been there, and we're introduced to local store worker Paquita, as she tries to catch a boy's attention.
That's a pretty dress, Paquita.
With a look of love on her face, or maybe it's just another urge. Maybe. Just guessing here. A reading from her grandmother changes everything.
You will recognize this man by the symbol of the star and of the moon.
Now, you might think it's strange that she listens so closely to this reading, but given how accurate her grandmother is in the film, given that she predicts basically everything that happens, she's very wise to listen. Going through to serve a customer, she meets Lionel and gives him some fairly terrible customer service. It kind of reminds me of somebody I work with. And through Lionel's clumsiness, the pens fall into a star shape and a moon, which is a sign from the cards that this is the man she is destined to be with. She must naturally be drawn to his clumsiness and his apparent death wishes. Although, to be fair to Lionel, given that this woman was just giving him the look of someone she'd rather step on rather than serve, and now she's staring at him like she wants to mount him, I can understand him backing off. Back home, we learn Lionel lives with his mother, Vera, a dominating woman who refuses to allow her son to grow up and rules his life with an iron fist. She informs him she's been chosen by the Wellington Ladies Welfare League to be treasurer-elect, and on Friday, the president and her husband will be stopping by to offer their congratulations.
Oh, that's great, Mum.
Deciding the house needs a thorough cleaning, Vera sets Lionel to work on his tasks, which include mowing the lawn, and we get an extreme close-up of the mower blades.
Epic foreshadowing.
Now, I remember watching this for the first time, not really knowing anything of the film other than the ending was going to be really gory, and really having no idea where they were going at this point. We'd gone from dismembering arms to an almost romantic-based drama about a domineering mother and her oppressed son. Still, it was moving along at such a pace that I didn't feel my interest wavering. Paquita stops by with her dog Fernando, making the deliveries Lionel had dropped off earlier in the day, and the two arrange a date to the zoo.
You want to go to the zoo?
Yes, please.
Well, they do in so many words, at least. At the zoo, we get some backstory on Lionel and learn he suffers from a fear of water due to repressed events from his childhood.
I nearly drowned when I fell off this pier. My dad dived in to save me, but as he was climbing out, this freak wave just washed him out to sea and he drowned.
Attempting to cheer him up, Paquita takes him over to the monkey cage, where the little monkeys look all so happy and playful. Well, except that one. That one's pretty dead now. The attacker is the famed Sumatra rat monkey in all its stop-motion glory. This was the monkey stolen at the beginning of the film. This one doesn't seem to like apple cores or nuts though, instead feeding on flesh. Having followed Lionel to the zoo and while spying on the couple, Vera is bitten by the monkey, which she doesn't take very well. And through manipulation, she has Lionel take her home, leaving Paquita, and after a visit from the nurse who dresses the wound, she makes him promise never to see Paquita again.
It won't happen again.
Paquita, though, is empowered by the pull of the cards, or maybe it's just obsession.
But we are romantically entangled.
I don't know. And that night, she climbs up to return Lionel's jacket. Initially, Lionel tells her that he can't see her, but being what must be a 30-year-old virgin and having a woman on his balcony who's basically saying, "Take me now," his resolve lasts all of 20 seconds. And while Lionel and Paquita consummate their one-day relationship, the cut on Vera's arm... how do I say this? Yeah, that'll do it. The next morning, Lionel discovers his mother not looking her best, and on removing the bandage... yeah, I don't even know how to describe that. The situation is further complicated when the Mathesons from the Welfare League stop by for their meeting, which sends Vera into a panic, and through attempted makeup, she manages to make herself look even worse.
Oh.
Lionel uses super glue, yes, super glue, to seal her skin back in place and sets about serving food, with Elizabeth Moody playing Vera doing a great job playing a character on the verge of becoming a zombie, but still relatively aware of who she is.
Thank you, Nora.
Funny enough, this actually reminds me of a normal conversation in Swansea on a Saturday night. Nora starts to get spooked by the behaviour, especially when Vera starts eating the meat off her own plate, and gets ready to leave. Her husband, though, being a bit of a pushy dick, insists on staying for dessert. Okay, if you're a little squeamish, I recommend you change the channel right about now.
Well, she liked to picnic on the Space Monkey Hubble telescope.
Oh god, that's even worse. Sorry. So, yeah. Vera just inserted some sweet into the pudding, which the husband doesn't seem to notice, and rather enjoys, actually. Not to be outdone, Vera's own ear falls into her pudding, which she also doesn't notice, and just eats that too. Yeah. The Mathesons leave, and Vera helps herself to some more meat before Paquita stops by with Fernando to inform Lionel of the card readings from her grandmother.
Dark forces
are messing against you.
I know I'm probably about to lose 75% of my audience right now, but any dog lovers out there, you might want to look away for a moment.
Your mother ate my dog!
After eating Fernando, Lionel finally realizes something is very, very wrong and calls the nurse, but before they can take Vera to the hospital, Vera sadly passes away.
Your mother's dead, Lionel.
Very sad. Then revives and breaks the nurse's neck. Still, that doesn't seem to dampen her enthusiasm for a snack though. And my favourite thing about this sequence is the ordinary mundane thing, like Paquita calling down asking which toothbrush belongs to Vera.
Lionel! Your mother's toothbrush, the white one or green one?
Green!
Deciding, well, she's dead now, Lionel contemplates what to do with her vase. Nice. And somehow, managing not to get bitten, he locks both the nurse and his mother in the basement and then fakes non-interest to make Paquita leave.
Well, I go now.
Needing heavy drugs, he heads to the veterinary clinic to meet the local vet.
What do you want?
After paying a hefty sum, the vet gives Lionel a large bottle of what I'm assuming is tranquilizer. And later that night, he heads down into the basement and manages to sedate both the nurse and his mother. And the next day, he arrives at Paquita's store for a reading from her grandmother.
Death surrounds him.
Paquita's grandmother again gives a spot-on reading and gives Lionel a cross which she claims will protect him from harm. While there, his mother arrives in the basement and makes her way towards the store.
How's your mother?
Oh, fine. Yeah, they want to keep her in hospital for a few more days.
Only to get hit by a tram that knocks her through the store doorway and allows Lionel to knock her out again.
They must have just charged her early.
So far, I kind of admit you'd be forgiven for wanting to give up on this film. We've only had 2 zombies on screen and some fairly gross out moments that, while memorable, are nothing more than that, gross out moments. That being said, it's clear now what direction the film is actually heading in. And by this point on first watch, I can remember being hooked into the film, but not only that, I was also laughing at the characters and the gross out moments, which is the film's intent. And it's also pretty obvious that the film is holding itself back. As there were witnesses in the store, and even though Lionel knows she's not actually dead, Lionel has to allow a funeral to proceed, and it's here we meet Les, Lionel's uncle. And yes, that is a wig, and yes, it is deliberate. Les is a walking creep who you will be happy to see get his by the end of the film, with Ian Watkin hamming it up beautifully as the perverted sicko. Vera, though, has been hooked up to an embalming machine for a little longer than expected, which gives some unwanted results. Okay, and just to remind you, this isn't the finale yet. Knowing she's not dead, Lionel attempts, once again, to put her out by opening the coffin, but this doesn't go quite according to plan as she revives and tackles him through the glass into the church.
Resurrected.
I love the little beat here of him playing the son not wanting to let go of his mother by hugging her corpse. It manages to be funny and slightly tragic at the same time, helped in no small way by having Les cackle over the whole scene. Later that night, knowing she'll revive, Lionel attempts to dig her up, but gets tackled by 4... young, I think, punks.
I reckon he's one of those guys that roots corpses.
Yeah, one of them macrophiliac.
Necrophiliac, you stupid asshole.
While the 3 unnamed members lay on a beatdown, the leader, called Void, decides to urinate on Vera's grave. Not a good idea. Remember when I said I felt the film was holding back? There you go. Launching Void's body into his retreating friends, Vera attacks another, and now both Void and his friend are a member of the walking elite. Backed against the wall, Lionel arms himself with a syringe, but never fear, for Wellington houses the most kick-ass priest there has ever been, Father Magruder.
This calls for divine intervention.
And Magruder proceeds to beat the holy hell out of the Walking Dead.
I kick ass for the Lord.
Seriously, in what other film could you see a priest pull off a zombie's arms, sweep their legs quite literally away, and then kick their head off? It's worth buying the film just for this scene alone. Sadly, by removing the head, it allows the zombie's head to land on his shoulder and bite him. Yes, and I hear all the nitpickers out there now. He removed the head, and the zombie is still moving. The zombie shouldn't be able to do that. Really? Really? You're really gonna get upset about this and quote some sort of zombie lore to me? In the days where we've got vampires who sparkle in broad daylight. Besides, if you're getting upset about this, God knows what you're going to be like by the time the finale comes around. Clearly, having never watched any Inspector Clouseau films, he intends a running kick, which doesn't end well for him, and he ends up impaled on a statue. Now, also a member of the undead. Which means Lionel is now hosting his mother, Void, the vicar, and the nurse, feeding them in the day and also drugging them before tying them down in the basement at night. I don't know, I guess he's trying to domesticate them.
Use the spoon.
Nurse McTavish still seems to be having some neck problems though, given that her head is still not on properly, but on making eye contact with the vicar, it's clear being zombified hasn't affected their sex drives. Les stops by, dropping hints that he wants to buy the house, and the movie isn't even subtle about painting him as the villain.
This is a private family matter.
What the hell's that?
Lionel uses the whatever that is to make Les leave. Oh yes, the vicar and the nurse are getting their frisk on, with McTavish quite literally snogging his face off. Huh, I've always wondered what would happen if you took that expression literally. But, I hear you ask, what could be worse than zombie sex? How about a zombie birth and baby? It looks like a cross between a Cabbage Patch and Garbage Pail Kid. Oh, the parents are so proud. Okay, for anyone out there who might feel sorry for the beatings the baby takes, don't. He's a little shit. Deciding to get the baby outside for a little fresh air, Lionel takes baby to the park. This scene, admittedly, doesn't really have a place in the movie, and it's clearly a pickup and was filmed to expand the film's runtime. But it does get to show off what a great physical comedian Timothy Balm can be. It also allows for some humorous moments involving the baby himself, as he takes quite the beating, but really seems to enjoy it. The baby, though, being as evil as he is ugly, just wants to bite others, which is to be expected given what he is. Which leads to probably the strangest example of tough love I've ever seen in a movie before Lionel manages to seal him away in a bag.
Hyperactive.
Back at the house, Les, who's still been snooping around, finally discovers Lionel's secret, although as they've been tranked out, he doesn't realise they're walking zombies and mistakes them for dead bodies. Using this leverage, he blackmails Lionel into giving him the house, then arranges a big party and orders Lionel to bury the bodies. This is not going to end well. The zombies, though, still seem to have facets of their personalities, as Void, hearing the music, comes upstairs to dance. So Lionel knocks him out with a whole bottle of Jack Daniels. Lucky bastard. Hearing the noise of the party, Paquita arrives and fighting off Les ends up in the basement where she also discovers Lionel's secret. Attempting to escape though, she ends up with Void on top of her before... Given what Void goes through and has already gone through in this film, I've got to say he is one resilient son of a gun. Initially freaked out, Paquita then remembers the words of her grandmother.
Death surrounds him.
And with her backing, Lionel is finally able to cut the cord, inject all the zombies with poison, it's so handy that all these bottles are labelled, and then bury them. Attempting to leave, Les bars their way, not allowing them to go until the house papers are signed. And after a brief scuffle, he throws Lionel back down into the basement, where he discovers the poison was an animal stimulant. And seeing as the bite came from an animal, it pretty much means that the zombies are now on steroids. And now the shit is about to hit the fan, and you are about to see some gloriously over-the-top death sequences. We're talking chest removals, face removals, and heart removals, and this is only the beginning. After the initial attack, the majority of the party are also zombified, so Lionel heads to the laundry room where he encounters Paquita and Les, only to get tackled through the door, and Les, not being the most likeable guy, decides... and leaves. Hey, he's not a nice guy, but he is pretty damn smart. Removing the hand, though, doesn't actually solve the problem, and the zombies invade, which forces Lionel and Paquita to separate. With Les fighting off the zombies in the garden, the remaining survivors set up fort in the front room, although this admittedly doesn't go quite according to plan. Oh, nasty. I've been waiting all year to say that. Lionel ends up in the hallway doing the cartoon comedy run of not getting anywhere until he uses James Bond's alligator escape technique, only using the dead body parts to move, before being tackled by Void and runs up the stairs while Paquita hides in the kitchen and discovers Rita, another survivor. Attempting to lock down the kitchen, Rita's friend Mandy returns to life, which forces Paquita to light her up. Yeah, that was terrible, I'm sorry. Lionel locks himself in the bathroom and attempts to escape through the attic, only for Void to break through the door, so Lionel steps on his upper body, which separates but remains active. And in the battle, Void's intestines fall out, and they remain active too. Lionel manages to trap Void's upper body in the toilet and attempts to leave, only to get attacked by Void's legs, so Lionel climbs up into the attic to escape the intestines. I tell you what, it's a good thing I use images to help me describe these scenes, otherwise I might sound a little crazy. In the attic, he discovers the truth behind his flashbacks. His father was having an affair, which his mother discovered, and then drowned both his father and his lover, keeping the woman's remains in the attic. Back in the garden, Les uses a pair of shears to remove half a zombie's head, while in the kitchen, Baby puts in a reappearance and bites Rita. This leads to a very humorous fight between Paquita and the baby, and wouldn't look out of place in an old school WWF hardcore match. I mean, seriously, I can't be the only one who's wanted to see someone do this to Hornswoggle. Besides, show me another film where a character could smash a baby with a chair and a frying pan and could still be considered the hero. Paquita manages to trap the baby in the blender, but has an attack of conscience when the baby starts to cry. Oh, poor little thing. Ah, fuck it. Switching the blender on, the baby escapes, only to fall from his perch, so Paquita punches it full in the face, sends it crashing into the garden, where it connects with Les's happy sack. God, I love this film. Back in the attic, the intestines manage to follow Lionel up, and in his attempt to escape, he catches his leg on a wire and falls through the ceiling, hanging upside down in the hallway, with the intestines advancing from above and the zombies advancing from below. In the kitchen, Paquita and Rita allow Les to enter, and Les goes all chop suey and hacks up about 30 zombies, and then enjoys a smoke to calm his nerves, only for Baby to return and using a severed leg to kick him right in the balls again. Les follows Baby downstairs into the basement, where a now revived and giant Vera rips his head and spine from his body. Lionel, still hanging from the ceiling, manages, albeit inadvertently, to reunite the lovebirds that are the vicar and the nurse, and climbing up the stairway, he saves Paquita before... Ouch. From the looks of things, Paquita and Vera don't look like they have a leg to stand on. Oh, shut up, but Lionel returns, looking like a saner version of Ash from the Evil Dead series, and firing up his lawnmower, he cuts through the zombies, setting blood and body parts scattering everywhere. Ah, so this is what TV Guide meant when they said this was the goriest finale ever. Seeking refuge in the kitchen, Paquita feeds body parts into the blender, including half a human head. Oh, delicious. Before Les puts in a reappearance, allowing Paquita to finally end him with a well-placed head smash. Doing all this, Rita succumbs to her bite and Baby rips her face apart. So Paquita lights the gas and starts a fire, while in the hall, Lionel and Void, who seems to have John Cena-like resilience, have a final battle, and with Void's legs having already split... I'm so funny. Lionel first traps his top half in the mower, which puts him in a spin before finally tackling the intestines. I love this moment because it actually looks like they're pleading with him. Given that they've tried to kill him countless times already, Lionel says nuts to this and mows them too, leaving only one remaining.
Haven't seen Mum yet.
Okay, before the final attack, I just want to comment a little on the entire zombie sequence. It's absolutely brilliant. I've been forced to cut it up and run through a number of the scenes, but believe me, there is a lot more here than I've shown, and it's just brilliant. The action is so insanely over the top, and it's hilarious to watch, and all the building this finale gets is well worth it. Vera puts in her appearance, having grown fairly large since we last saw her, and chases Lionel and Paquita up onto the roof before Vera herself breaks through and advances on the pair. And now, finally, Lionel stands up to his mother. Deciding he should be with her forever, Vera puts Lionel back into her womb before noticing Paquita. While toying with her, Lionel uses the cross he was given earlier in the film to rip through her stomach and escape. Vera falls back into the burning house and finally dies, along with Baby and any other surviving zombies, while Lionel and Paquita swing to safety and walk off into the moonlight, happy and completely covered in blood. You know what? More films should end this way. And that's Braindead. Truly the goriest, most over-the-top film I have ever seen, and played just about perfectly as a result. Once you actually get the angle the director, Peter Jackson, was shooting for, the film becomes a humorous comedy, helped by some truly over-the-top performances and some incredible use of prosthetics and makeup. If you're someone who can't suspend disbelief and just enjoy a film for being silly and utterly insane, then it probably isn't for you, as you'd spend most of the time questioning everything and find yourself unable to enjoy it. You may also need a strong stomach too. The ending is utter carnage and is just pure brilliance, with memorable moments and set pieces, and it all happens so fast you'll find yourself forgetting great moments for even better ones. This will be my last weekly release for a while due to the fact that I've got an increase in my work hours and Christmases are coming. In the meantime, I'm going to be releasing some commentaries, and I'm hoping to get a Doctor Who video out by the end of this month, but that all depends on whether or not I can get the time to do it. You will see a Christmas video release from me in December, which is going to be Scrooged. and I am doing the Panda Q&A Christmas special as well. Until then, I'm off to mow the lawn.